Good evening and welcome to Teacher Talk Tuesday. This is your host, Dr. Yvonne Henderson, and today I would like to talk about titles versus entitlement. Yes, you heard me, titles versus entitlement. We have still in this nation too many people who do not want to acknowledge African Americans, women, or men of color who have higher level degrees. Even after earning the degrees and getting the positions in different places, be it the hospital, the educational establishments, the higher institutions of learning, we still have an issue with people wanting to address us by our title because of their sense of entitlement. I saw an article today on LinkedIn where there was a young lady who had her doctorate in science and medicine and working on cures for the coronavirus on a television show with another person who held a doctorate degree who was of the Caucasian persuasion. And the host found it difficult to address the African American young lady as doctor. He kept addressing her as Miss. I found it very disheartening that in 2020, we still have people who do not want to recognize our people of color for the higher level of education that they've received and the degrees that they've earned, the titles that they are entitled to based on their studies and their time spent to earn those degrees. The comments are what bothered me the most. There was a gentleman who posted and said they didn't want to call her doctor because in the media and the people listening in the community and in the world didn't want to confuse them because she wasn't a medical doctor. Really? Didn't want to address her as a doctor because they didn't want to confuse the listeners in trying to figure out the difference between her doctorate and the other doctorate of the Caucasian lady who was a medical doctor. Well, it's time to educate. That would have been a perfect time to educate the people and let them know no, she's not a medical doctor, but she has her doctorate in studying infectious diseases and finding cures. That's what her doctorate is in. So she is a doctor in that. She has mastered the ability to be able to be called doctor in her field. There are a lot of degrees, a lot of areas where people can get degrees as a doctor and not be a medical doctor. Why are we not educating people? Why are we still living in the dark ages and thinking that the only doctor that you can be is a medical doctor? His argument was, my brother is a doctor in the emergency room and it's a different doctor than what she has, but she's still a doctor. Time out for the pettiness and the entitlement to think that you're the only one that can be called doctor because you're in an emergency room, because you're in a hospital. We all have the ability and the capability of getting a higher degree, which is a doctorate, which is the highest degree that you can get in your field. And if that's what she has, then call her doctor. I still deal with this. When I got my doctorate in 2011, I worked at a district in Illinois where the superintendent refused to call me doctor. Really? Well, I guess I'll refuse to call you doctor. You have your EDD just like I do. If I can respect you and call you doctor, why can you now not respect me that I have mine? So the first time she addressed me and didn't call me doctor, I didn't respond. She got offended. She wanted to write me up. I'm like, why? Because if I didn't call you doctor, you'd be offended. So in turn, when she called on me, I didn't respond to her as doctor. She got offended. I'm Dr. such and such. And I said, and I'm Dr. Henderson. So if we want to throw degrees at people, make sure you can back it up. Your degree is no different than mine. They both say EDD, education, a doctorate in education. We both have one. Yours is no better than mine, and mine is no better than yours, but you will respect the title, just like I respect yours. We have a problem with society because they're intimidated by us. Why? I went to school, I earned it. I had people in my own race who said they didn't want to call me doctor. Oh, I don't need a title. Oh, yes, you would. If you went to school and you worked hard and you got your degree and you walked across that stage and they called you Dr. Such and Such, you wanted everyone else to call you Dr. Such and Such. So don't get it twisted and don't act like you wouldn't want to be called doctor if you earned it, because you would. No, I'm not high and mighty. I don't feel like I'm better than anyone else, but I earned the degree. Respect the degree. Respect the title that comes along with the degree and the hard work and the student loans that I have to prove it. Time out for allowing people to continue to be ignorant. And ignorant is just a lack of knowledge. Let's educate the people. There are more types of doctorate degrees than just an emergency doctor or a physician. We can't use that as an excuse as to why we don't honor those people of color who have a doctorate by not calling them doctor. Why? Because you're so used to being entitled to what you want to do that you could do what you want to do, say what you want to say, call people what you want to call them, and think it's okay. No, time out for that. I have people now that don't want to call me doctor. Why, parents? Why do my kids have to call you doctor? Why can't they just call you Miss or Mrs.? Because it's Dr. Henderson. I've earned that degree, and that's what I will be called in my work environment. Now, my friends hanging out, no, I'm not expecting them to call me doctor. Most of them call me doc, but it's not something that I need you to do on the outside. If we hanging out, having dinner, having a good time, you don't have to call me doctor. I'm not throwing titles around like that, but in the workplace where I've earned that degree in the educational field, yes, you will call me doctor. So let's make sure that we are keeping things on a level where they're supposed to be. I'm sure you don't have physicians walking around and their friends calling them Dr. Such and Such when they're not in the emergency room. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But how do you feel about it? What do you have to say? If you have any comments or you want to hear more about this topic, please, because this might just be my soapbox. I don't know. But I would love to hear from my audience at Teacher Talk Tuesday. TEACHERTALK, the number 2, UESDAY at gmail.com. Send me a message. Let me know how you feel about this topic. Would it bother you if you had a doctorate and no one called and they didn't want to call you doctor? How would you feel when you know you've worked hard, you've studied, you've gotten your paperwork to say that you've done what you needed to do to get this? So hit me up. Let me see what you're talking about. Teacher Talk Tuesday at gmail.com. TEACHERTALK, the number 2, UESDAY at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you for joining me for Teacher Talk Tuesday. This has been your host, Dr. Yvonne Henderson. Have a good evening.